This episode of On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls is brought to you by Will Jewelry and Loan. When you need cash and you need it fast, check out Will Jewelry and Loan. Come on in with your jewelry, firearms, electronics, tools, lawn equipment, dirt bikes, side-by-sides, and even four-wheelers. They will beat any competitor's loan amount, and that's a fact. Will Jewelry and Loan guarantees faster and more cash for your loan than any other company in the area. They have your cash you need fast. Check them out today on their Facebook page or give them a call at 304-768-5101. Stop in and talk with them at 5523 McCorkle Avenue, Southwest, South Charleston, West Virginia. Will Jewelry and Loan, 304-768-5101. All right, folks, welcome back. We're back in the studio after our awesome live podcast we had there at Cabela's for their Fall Hunting Classic sale that was going on, and it's actually still going on. So you got one more day to get geared up for upcoming fall hunting season with all the great products that they have there at Cabela's. So your local Cabela's here in West Virginia, 200 Cross Terrace Boulevard, Charleston, West Virginia, 25313. So you can get all your gear there. They got one more day of this sale, so check them out there. So we have a very interesting guy on this evening, as I mentioned there in the beginning. CJ Landers with Landers Hat Works, right here from Elkview, West Virginia. So I stumbled across CJ via social media while watching WCHS thing that they had. They done an interview with CJ. And posted it, about his art that he has making hats. So that kind of intrigued me, and I was like, well, we need to have him on the podcast. Local guy, and, he's made it on a national level there with some of his hats. So we'll be talking to him here in just a second. So be sure to check out episode 116, segment 3 of our Breathe Wine and Culture Company live podcast that we done, I think it was about a month ago. That will be that was done for their grand opening. That'll be airing tomorrow. We spoke with Gerald Bennett, owner of Warhead Archery Company, or Warhead Arrow Company. I'm thinking about archery.
Yeah,
archery season's close.
I've been shooting. I know you've been shooting.
Yeah. So you finally got your arrows tuned in there.
Yeah.
Cut.
Oh yeah, they're dialed in. Those exothermics from Warhead, man, they are hack drivers.
I just bought me a recurve, so I was talking to Gerald there the other day, and he said that exothermic is their big, I think it's a 500 series that people use for recurves, so I'm going to be getting me some of those here soon.
Okay, nice.
Yep. So you liking them?
Oh, yeah. Yep, I'm liking them. I know we was talking about it the other day. I sent you that picture of them.
Yeah.
My son apparently has stolen my release, and I can't find it, so I ended up buying a new release, and I went to the thumb release, and I'm telling you what, you got to shoot it when I come in this weekend for sure. I think you're going to be in awe of it, because I am.
Man, I tell you, I've done the thumb release before, and I just can't get it. I mean,
I didn't understand.
I can shoot it, but I don't. It just doesn't feel right to me.
Well, if you have somebody to explain it to you and kind of show you, it makes more sense. Like it feels right. There is some adjustments I found. I had to do some adjustments on my bow to get it to feel right. I had to change my draw length and everything and all that. But once he got me dialed in, man, it was like, wow, there's absolutely no punch. For me, there's no punch. Like, every now and then, every couple arrows, you'd have that little bit of punch anticipating it.
Yeah.
This one is just, you kind of squeeze your fist and it goes off and you don't really expect it.
And that seems to be the problem that people have most of the time is punching it, because or torquing your string, what we were talking about there the other night.
Yep, absolutely.
Because that can be done easily. I mean, you can pull back, and the way you hold that thing, you can torque your string sideways, and it's going to throw your arrow off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. All right. Well, anyways, Gerald Bennett there with Warhead Arrow Company. He was on there with Alan Tackett. They were talking about the Whitetail Frenzy arrow that just come out. It was just released that weekend on the Whitetail Frenzy website, so go check that out.
Man, definitely check that out. That's a sweet looking arrow. They done a good job on it.
Yes, for sure they did. So that segment will be airing tomorrow on all major networks, and be sure to head over to Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts for all of our other 115 episodes.
Absolutely. Also, guys, don't forget to check out outdoor-pro-shop and use podcast 10, apparitionsense.com, use On the Limb, and Nature's Voice game calls, use podcast 15. You can get those great benefits at checkout. You'll get phenomenal discounts on those sites, man. And like I said, Outdoor Pro Shop has everything, and you're wanting to get started with your archery season, Apparition Sense is where it's at. They got all that to make the mock scrapes and everything. So it's getting that time. We got to start thinking about it.
Yeah, they've got a ton of stuff.
And of course, you got to get your grunt tube.
Oh yeah, deer season coming up, man. You got to get a grunt tube. CJ's going to leave here with one this evening, so his dad's a big hunter. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But anyways, without further ado, please welcome with me CJ Landers, the owner of Landers Hat Works. CJ, how you doing?
Doing all right. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate your time coming in this evening and talking about some of your art that you have there.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
We're sitting here, typing up the talking points, and I'm thinking, I guess you would consider hats, building hats and art. I mean, of course.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, because there's a lot that goes into these things. I mean, it's just crazy. So, CJ, if you don't care, just to start out, just give us a brief background of you and how things got started there a little bit.
In terms of hat work, I really wish there was a more intricate story, except for I just really liked hats.
Liked hats.
I have always been a hat nut ever since I was knee high. There's pictures of me dressed like Woody from Toy Story, and it's just the cowboy, mantra, whatever you want to call it. And,
I hear you.
And I wish I could say that I came home from school and went and watched cartoons, but usually my dad got home before me, so it was Gunsmoke or Bonanza or whatever, and that's what we would always watch.
Yeah.
And I always found myself going to their hats. And then right when I was around 12 or 13, we started this thing called cowboy action shooting. And for anybody that's familiar with it, you know what it is. But for those who aren't, if you know what 3-gun competition shooting is, it's basically that.
Yeah.
Just dressed in period clothing, so it's a little bit more dorky to some people.
Oh, so it's kind of like listen. So here's one of the things that I just learned this word like last year. It's called LARPing.
Yeah, there you go.
Is that it?
That's pretty close. Yeah,
nice.
It's
like role play.
Yeah, kind of. You go by an alias.
For you, Michael.
I know.
You got to go by an alias. You got to get a membership. All this thing.
Yeah.
I went by Maverick for 12 years. So,
dude, that is awesome.
And it's really fun. And I use, of course, anybody who takes dorky seriously. That's not how I mean it. It's that's just what a lot of people in high school called it for me.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think I would LARP if it was like Civil War or Last of the Mohicans.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just going out Zane Grey style,
Yeah.
But I grew into loving that, and when I started, I was wearing what I could find in terms of clothing, trying to find where to get the right stuff or the cool stuff and all that, and was wearing a lot of bad John Wayne costumes and what have you. But I started looking at all these guys' hats, and I was like, wow. Because as I got older, I started looking. I thought, wow, I'd really like to get a custom hat. And then I started looking at prices for custom hats, and I'm like, I'm 15, and I can't do this.
Yeah.
So, I didn't have $500 or $600 back then to spend on a custom hat, but I had $200 in a summer job.
There you go.
I took that first paycheck from that summer job and bought, a couple old hats off of eBay and Steamer and all that, and just went to work, started teaching myself. And from there, that's where it kind of blossomed. I started wearing those to cowboy matches, and a lot of the guys were going, where are you getting your hats? And I told them I did it, and they said, then you need to start making them. So that's kind of where branched off into that.
So they seen the quality right off.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Not to pat myself on the back, but I can make a.
Well, I mean, it's, like we're saying, it's an art, it's a skill.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
just something that you.
And there was still some really rudimentary elements to those hats. I was building my own sweatbands out of sheepskin leather and all this stuff, and it didn't look the prettiest, but it worked.
Yeah.
And then from there, I started doing a little one-man shop, and it was Mavericks Custom Hats and Restoration, and it was a bunch of just restoration work. Is essentially what it was, and I didn't really, and I closed it down because of COVID. It took me out, and right off the back of that, I ended up moving out to Utah, and that's where I started working for a business that did a lot of the work for Yellowstone and a few other shows and everything, and. I was traveling back and forth from middle of nowhere Utah up to Park City and shaping hats for all these people, and really got to get into what I could see of the business that they didn't keep behind lock and key, and I just threw myself into it. I had already had a love for it by that point, but I really threw myself into learning how to do all this, because nothing against those guys, they had their own way of doing things, and they didn't really want to show behind the scenes stuff to even people who worked there a lot of the times.
Yeah.
But I had to learn how to do it myself. And I ended up leaving there because of a great opportunity. And then after that opportunity ended and it came to the end of its course, I bounced around with a couple other operations and learned a few things through them, but really honed my craft in on my own time, and I call myself self-taught as much as I can be. And and now it's blossomed into this.
Yeah.
Where I'm just building them from scratch on my own brand.
Nice.
That's awesome. So, obviously we're a outdoor podcast, and that has to do with the outdoors. That's the, hats are worn all over the country and stuff. But the question is, do you hunt? And if you do, and how'd you get started in it? Your father figure, your grandfather?
Father figure. I used to hunt all the time with my dad back when I was young, and then it just, like I said, to Michael, I wish that I had it running through my blood as much as my dad did, because he is an avid hunter, always has been. He's went out west and done a couple big game hunts. He's wanting to do a couple other things. That's where his mind is right now, as far as I can tell. He loves to hunt whitetail and everything, but he's like, I kind of want to kill a mountain lion or something.
Oh yeah.
He's now going into exotic hunts and all that.
Okay.
But
nice.
I used to whitetail hunt and did a lot of turkey hunting. Tried to do some coyote hunting, but I really just I couldn't take to it, and I don't know why, but I wish I could have, because I tried. It just didn't interest me for whatever reason. I don't know. Like my dad, he always said this thing. He's like, I could go sit in a deer stand from dawn to dusk and not see a thing and be completely happy.
Yeah, me too.
But I can't go sit on a riverbank and fish from dawn to dusk. I'll kill myself. So I'm like, well, I'm kind of the same way with both. But the older I get, the more I want to keep revisiting hunting and stuff like that as much as I can.
Yeah. Well, since you've grown up in it and you've been around it, I think it's something that'll come back to you.
Yeah.
We've talked to plenty of people, and it's like my daughter. She's a little princess there for a long time, danced for like 12 years,
right?
And now she's wanting to start fishing again and stuff. So
cool.
I think it's going to start coming back around. When you get to be a teenager, stuff like that, you're in high school, you get busy with other things and sports, and
exactly.
Kind of takes the time away from the outdoors, but I think it always comes back to you. So that's awesome. So your degree is in communications, right? That's what we were talking about there before the podcast. So you done some script writing?
Yeah, that's what I ended up going to college for. My parents, I didn't want to go to college. My parents basically said, "No, you're gonna go."
Oh, okay.
And I ended up going, and I was going to be an English major because I do like to write and whatever else. And I went and sat with an advisor, and they said, you got to have 4 foreign language credits if you want to be an English major. And I said, what degree do you got to have that doesn't require foreign language? and they said, communications. I said, that don't add up.
That don't make sense, does it?
That don't make any sense.
If you want to communicate, you want
right. So I ended up going.
You,
I said,
you get on them damn on them phone calls, it's what? Press one for English?
Yeah, exactly. So I said, well, put me down for that, and we'll see how that goes. So I ended up falling into the communications department and realized it was about, film, television, news, that stuff. And I really took to that like a duck to water. And
that's awesome.
Because I've always been a film nut. Again, since I was knee-high, always loved TV and movies, all that stuff. So I ended up taking a couple screenwriting courses and then had a really great professor. Me and him are now best friends. Took me under his wing and said, "You've got something here. Let's hone this and try to learn as much as we can." So now the two avenues are hats and screenwriting, two of the most obscure things you could get, especially in the state of West Virginia. So
I think it's funny because like when I was looking at your Facebook page there, this was before I seen a picture of you. I thought the picture that you had for your profile picture was actually somebody off of The Walking Dead or something like that, or like one of them guys off of, not the zombie guys, obviously, but one of the Scream guys from there. I was like, man, that looks like a picture from that.
Thank you.
It was pretty cool, that picture. That's awesome.
Actually, weird tangent. Got to do some hats for Walking Dead spinoffs.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was through one of the companies I was working for. They had the Yellowstone thing pretty locked down, but they had a celebrity client, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who he was doing his new spinoff for The Walking Dead, and he wanted to wear his personal hat in the show. So I got the phone call one day from the boss that was like, we don't want to deal with this, you deal with it. And it was the costume department emailing in saying, hey, we need a couple more hats for the show.
No way.
So I had to go through that whole process, and I had to make him a couple and a couple for the stunt double, but didn't even know they made it into the show until the show premiered, and I saw some screen grabs, so that was kind of cool.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Awesome.
So now, did you make them here in West Virginia for the show, or was
that was out in Utah.
That was when you was out in Utah.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Man, you just packed up shop and went to Utah, huh?
Pretty much. That's exactly what it was. They
traveling hat man.
I reached out exactly. I reached out to them about 2021, and they said basically, we're looking for somebody, and we'd like you to come out and work for the NFR for us at the end of the year. And I thought, okay, that sounds really familiar. And lo and behold, it's Cowboy Christmas, which is the largest event in Las Vegas.
Oh my goodness!
It's the National Finals Rodeo. So first year I go out there and I'm like, this is great. This is awesome. And I apparently impressed them enough that they hired me that following January. So went and worked for them long enough and got, like I said, got really in the mix with them, made some lifelong friends, and learned a few more things that I could. And then that's how I got the whole Costner job, the whole Horizon thing that fell off the back of that. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Well, let's take a break real quick, and we'll hear a word from our sponsor. But when we come back, we'll hear a little bit about that and the process of this hat making. Do you want the true Western hunt experience? Book your hunt of a lifetime today with Highland Outfitters, LLC. Located in Highland, Wyoming, 50 miles west of Casper. Their location in central Wyoming gives you access to some of the best hunting areas in the state. Highland specializes in archery hunts for elk and antelope. Their operations include Wyoming, Texas, and Africa. Highland Outfitters employs some of the finest guides in the business. All guides are licensed by the Wyoming Board of Professional Outfitters and Guides. No matter what the species you decide to hunt, you can count on your guide giving you 110% of being the true professional guide from start to finish. Book your hunt today at 307-797-3311 or 307-797-3312. Visit them on the web at HighlandOutfitters.com. With Highland Outfitters, you will get the true Western adventure. All right, guys, we're back with CJ Landers with Landers Hat Works right here in Elkview, West Virginia. So, CJ, before we went to the break there, you were talking about the whole Horizon deal. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, I weirdly enough, I read some articles about it at the start of the year in 2021 or 2022, excuse me. And I towards the end of the year, right around middle of the year, actually, I think it was right around October, I believe. I can't quite remember. I had my boss call me just at stroke of luck at 8:00 at night after I got in from work, and he said, "Hey, I just got the weirdest email from the costume department on this movie that's shooting over in Moab, which from where we were was about 2 hours." And he said, "It's for this new Kevin Costner movie," and I'm like, "You talking about Horizon?" He said, "Oh, so you know about it?" I'm like, "I've been reading about this thing."
Awesome.
And he said, "What is this?" And I told him exactly what it was, and then the following day I managed to get myself into the meeting with him and the costume department over the phone, and got to talk to him, and they sent us some stuff that they were looking for, and ended up having to build about 4 hats. You know, I'm a Costner fan in my own right, so I'm like, I think I kind of know what they're looking for, you know, based on his other movies as much as I could. And so about another week goes by, and they said, "Are the hats ready?" And we were like, "Yeah, they are." And they said, "Well, we'll just send you a shipping label." And I'm sitting there thinking, "No, you aren't." I told my boss that I had a date that was in Moab on my day off. I said, "You know, I could probably just swing by and drop them off." And he said, "Yeah, that works. That's cool." And there was no date. There was nothing like that. I just walked into the costume department with a load of hat boxes and showed them the entire thing. And they said, "These are great." And I'm like, "Yeah, do you all actually need somebody to maintain ththese and the hats on set?" And they were like, "Actually, can somebody get the costume designer down here? Because we might have just found our saving grace." So they ended up hiring me for the project and all that. So I got to go out and work on a few things with them. You know, the irony, of course, being that Costner went a different route with his hat maker.
Yeah.
But I got to be on there and work and see the whole inner workings of that thing, and it was a really cool experience.
Man, that's cool.
Yeah, it was a really cool experience because it was both worlds colliding. You know, it was the screenwriting and the hats at the same time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's sweet, man.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's really good experience in your with your background there, communications.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dan.
Before we delve into any more of this, talking with him, let me go ahead and hit this salute for the evening. So tonight we're going to salute a former president, George H.W. Bush.
Nice.
You know, he's obviously a well-known political figure in American history.
Yep.
41st president. You know, he was actually vice president under Reagan after he was the president. So, but he did serve in the U.S. Navy. He was in World War II at the age of 19 years old. He actually became one of the youngest aviators in the entire Navy.
Wow.
And by 1944, he had flown 58 combat missions.
Wow.
He'd received a Distinguished Flying Cross, 3 Air Raid medals, and the Presidential Unit Citation Award. That was awarded to San Jacinto. He was honorably discharged in 1945 after Japan surrendered. So during his tenure, he was in World War II, flew all those missions, and was out after Japan initiated their surrender. So that's pretty impressive. You know, I mean, then go on to become the president, vice president, what have you. Among the director of the CIA, he had a pretty illustrious career.
Yeah,
beyond the military too.
Yep. You know, I've always thought that should be one of the requirements to be a president.
Yeah, I can't say I disagree with you.
Is you should have that military experience. Yeah. I mean, you are the commander of the army.
That shows your dedication to your country.
Yeah, I think it does. Your sacrifice and your dedication. But, you know, I can't remember, we went for a long stretch there with presidents that were in the military, and then we went to presidents that wasn't. So
right.
I think it's kind of flip-flopped through the years, but more so on the military side, I think. Mm-hmm. I think there's been more on the military side. But, yep, thank you.
I'd have to look that up, but, yeah, that's a good point.
You know, is it right to say former president or President Bush?
I honestly wouldn't know what.
I wouldn't know what. I've heard both ways, you know, because they're still considered. I mean, they're not considered the president now, but I've heard people say President Bush or not former President Bush. But anyways, thank you for your service, sir, and God bless you.
So going back on that, I just did a real quick search. Of the 45 presidents, how many do you think had prior military service?
Out of the 45,
Yep.
probably 40.
No.
Really?
31 had prior military service.
Well, that's pretty stinking good, though. I mean, that's
that's not bad. You're
60%. Mm-hmm. Well, no, you're 80% almost. Mm-hmm. Pretty close.
Roughly.
Yeah. All right, cool deal. Well, thank you, Dan, for the salute to valor there.
Yeah.
So let's get back into some hats.
Yeah.
We were talking. Dan was asking the question there earlier, about the different furs and different types of hats. So just give us a general Landers Hat Works, overall.
Well, me personally, I deal with four different grades of fur, I guess. I deal in the X rating system, which is what most hatters deal with. But the thing is that there is no set law or regulation that within the hatting industry that states what your X system must be. So my 20X might be completely different from somebody else's 20X.
Okay.
So
that's a typical name that hatters use?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
gotcha.
There's, and across, the broad spectrum of, corporate business as well. Like you have the Resistol 20X black gold and stuff like that. The 100X is usually considered pure beaver. But for me, on my scale, I start at a 20X, which is 100% European hair, just rabbit fur. And then I do a 50X, which is 50-50, 50% rabbit and 50% beaver fur. And then I dabble in Nutria fur, which it's I guess you can say it's 100% or 100X Nutria fur, but it's just, to me, Nutria fur. It used to be used all the time back in the 20s and 30s with, major hat brands, Stetson and so on and so forth. And it's still used today by some corporate brands, but it's definitely fell by the wayside. But it's still a really durable hat, especially for certain styles or certain feels that people are going for. If they want a vintage feel or something like that, that's definitely a way to go.
So now I know, like your beaver, that's pretty much 100% waterproof. A nutria is a close relative to a beaver. They live in the water.
Yeah.
So how's that relate to the waterproof factors of that hat?
They're still really good in terms of, waterproofing. They're not as good as beaver. I say if beaver is aquatic, then nutria is semi-aquatic.
Okay.
There's definitely, and there's a difference in the stiffness as well. Like if you hit a 100X beaver hat, there's a thud. If you hit, if you thump a nutria hat, you still get a thud, but there's a wobble afterwards.
Okay.
And it's something in the building process of the hat itself, or of the body itself.
So what is the base of the hat before the fur goes on it?
It is nothing but fur and glue.
Nothing but fur and glue.
There's no skin. There's no nothing like that. It goes into what looks like a big cotton candy machine.
Oh my goodness!
And it makes what's called a cone, and then they make a cape line out of that, which essentially looks like an unfinished hat. Like there's no guts, there's no nothing like that. It looks, the best way to describe it looks like the man in the yellow hat from Curious George. That's what they all look like. Big old cone hat, flat brim.
Yeah.
And then from that, you size them. Somebody, like I wear 7 3/8, so I would have to build my hat to a 7 3/8. So there's a whole blocking process. There's a sanding process. There's sweatband installation, which I do by hand. There's, your hat band, whatever you choose. There's how big you want your brim to be, how tall you want your crown to be, stuff like that.
Wow. That's
where you're getting the 10-gallon hat
and
all that, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so just this is something crazy. You said the word hatter, and I'm thinking, I wonder if the Mad Hatter had anything to do with hats.
Absolutely. So the urban myth to where that term came from is they used to put mercury in hats.
And it made them psychotic.
It made them crazy.
That's nuts.
That's what it went.
I didn't know that.
Hat builders went crazy.
Because it didn't even tell me that here when I was looking it up. It was talking about, person going, suffering from insanity. But it says that explanations both connected and unconnected to the trade of hat making.
Yep. Yeah.
So I think it's pretty cool because he did have a big hat.
Yeah. The Mad Hatter, like that whole term, like, and that's what gave a lot of the hats that thin, velvety feel.
Okay.
And then of course they realized it was making the makers crazy, so they couldn't use it anymore. And so they had to just find other avenues and better, mixtures to use that weren't harmful.
Yeah.
But that's where that comes from, And there's been a few cases recently where I won't say who, but there's been people who've been caught putting mercury back into hats to get that velvety feel, and they were like, "Nope, we can't do that."
You're kidding.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Wow.
And they still make a great hat.
Yeah.
But it was like when you would feel on the hat, it's like there's something going on here, and then they found the mercury.
That's nuts.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting, actually. I didn't think that it had anything to do with it, but I figured I would bring it up because of you just calling it a hatter as the trade there. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my talking point there. I was
You're
looking.
fine. I'll jump in one there real quick then. So style. I mean, there's a multitude of styles of hats. What's most popular style of hat locally and nationally?
The most popular,
have you found?
Most popular style you'll ever find is the Cattleman crease, which is
You have one here, don't you?
Yeah, it's the charcoal gray right on the edge. It's
Michael, if you don't care, steal that.
Yeah,
hide that for me.
yeah.
Now this one here, you said, is this one actually this one's for a customer?
That's mine.
This one's yours?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
There is one here that will be going out to a customer.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
That's a take on the Cattleman crease. It's technically called a dog bone, and that's just because it's
Okay.
pinched on the sides a little bit more. But that is about as classic as you can get with your hats.
And it's easy to hold.
Yeah.
Is that one of the biggest things?
Yeah, it's all about pinch and feel, pinch and grab.
Now the other one over there that I noticed, it doesn't have a very big area to pinch it and grab it.
Yeah, there's
We're talking about hats here.
There's
St. Dave ain't there.
I know.
There's this one, and this is called the West Texas Punch, or now a lot of people call it the Walker because of Walker from Yellowstone.
Yeah, let me see that.
Yeah.
And it's just two dimples on the side.
Oh, so you can grab that one pretty good.
Yeah, see?
That's nice.
But it all depends on what you're looking for. And hat styles used to be based on, the area that you lived in. There was a very demographic part to your hat shapes, and then it just got formed into whatever you like.
Yeah.
But if you go into a store and you pick a hat up if it's not open flat, it's usually a Cattleman crease. And that's just because that's what looks best on the everyday Joe that wants a cowboy hat.
And what kind of fur is yours here?
That's 100% beaver.
100% beaver. So you said you had that thud to it.
Yeah.
That's not fair. That's what I want.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a snap to them. There's a feel to them. And, you get that with a lot of...
This one kind of looks like it's got a little mercury in it. No, I'm just kidding. There you go.
Wow.
But like in terms of styles and stuff like that, I've shaped, just about every hat crease under the sun that somebody hasn't come up with themselves. And even in that case, I've gotten to do a few of those. But if you go to a cowboy action event, you're wearing what's commonly known usually as the Gus. That's the most common, popular Old West style. And then you have, stuff, you see a lot of, emulation of, Tom Selleck or John Wayne and Sam Elliott and stuff like that. And, but in terms of modern day, even in what might look like a Cattleman crease to somebody else, it can be something completely different.
So now the flat brim like this one here.
Yeah.
Is that more of a woman style hat?
Yeah, that's more female oriented. That's my color called burdock. It's got a purple undertone to it. And I've turned it into a fashion hat. That's actually nutria fur right there.
Oh my gosh!
And
Dan,
How's that feel, Michael?
Oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe it. It's. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
See, this is crap.
I mean, you would never even think that that's fur.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I don't know. Is cashmere fur? What is that from?
Shoot, what
What is cashmere from, Dan?
I wish I knew that.
I'm not sure.
I don't know that.
They
but
do. I know Stetson does make a hat with cashmere in it.
That's
Yeah.
what that feels like.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just crazy. So, talking about the sweatbands and stuff like that, yours are leather, right?
Yes.
And what kind of leather is it?
That's lambskin.
Lambskin.
I do a special order with some guys that I know out west. They're a great company. They make all my sweatbands, and I do a 2-inch lambskin leather sweatband. And basically, what it does is it's a double-sided coin where it looks good, but also when you start sweating in it, it starts to tack to your head a little bit. So it helps you when you're racing in the arena or in a windstorm. But it just, to me, it's a little bit softer. It's a little bit smoother. It looks nicer. Nothing against a calfskin sweatband whatsoever, but to me, they for whatever reason, they don't seem to last as long as what I found a lambskin would.
So will these get softer, obviously, as it goes?
Yeah, the finish the finish will start to wear off over time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, what will happen is as time goes on, they'll need to be replaced. And I personal preference, I hand sew all my sweatbands in. I don't have a sewing machine in my shop whatsoever.
Really? You sew the brim too on that, like that other one over there?
Yeah, that's all by hand.
No kidding.
Wow.
Holy moly.
Yeah, that's it's all.
I would have said a machine done that. I mean, that is consistent as can be.
I appreciate that.
Wow.
But I do that just based on personal preference, and the machinery is hard to find and hard to purchase.
Yeah.
But also as far as the sweatbands go, it's to me it's better for the hat because you're not poking as many holes, so that way it'll last longer. And when it needs to be refurbished or restored, it allows the sweatband to be installed more times.
So you're only 26. I remember back in high school. I'm 43, and now back in high school they used to teach us how to sew in home ex. Did they teach you?
No.
See, you didn't learn that in regular school?
No.
So you taught yourself?
Pretty much, yeah. My grandma showed me how to thread a needle.
See, man, I wish they would bring stuff like that back into
about
school.
it. That's...
I mean, just because you're a guy doesn't mean you're not going to ever have to sew.
Right.
I mean, God.
Rambo sewed himself up.
Yeah, you have to sew a wound up or sew something together for a tarp or a lean-to out in the woods. I mean, you just never know.
Absolutely. And of course... with everything else, the first couple didn't look that good, and then it grew from that. And I think, as far as fundamental side, as when you get into rebuilding the hat over time, that way you get to that hat will last longer.
Yep.
And it's also just therapeutic for me just to get in there for whatever reason. People, I'll have people stop by or whatever, and I'll just be sewing away. And
yeah. Well, see, it's funny how you say that it could be therapeutic. I mean, there's a lot of people that hates pulling weeds or picking weeds.
Yeah.
I actually don't mind it.
Right.
I mean, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, so some of the things like you're saying that you think is therapeutic, people would think, oh my God, I wouldn't want to sew that.
Right. Yeah.
I'd want a machine to do that.
Yeah.
But.
There was a deal where we were on the road. I was working for an outfit on the road, and this guy wanted a bound edge, which is what that is, the ribbon on the outside of the brim. He wanted it on his hat, and he didn't want to wait for it because we didn't have a sewing machine or anything like that. And I managed to talk the business owner and that customer. I said, if you can wait 2 days on my downtime, I can get that done. So he came back 2 days later, and his hat had a bound edge on it, and that's because I was in the booth just sewing up and down in between customers and all that stuff. And he said, I thought you guys didn't have a sewing machine. I said, we didn't. I said, I said, I'm going to have arthritis by the time I'm 35, but I got it done, buddy.
That is crazy.
So that's the cool part too, and I'm not charging an arm and a leg to do that. It is an added feature, on your hat, but I try to keep everything as cost effective as I can for the customer.
That's awesome. So, I mean, these are fully 100% custom, obviously, as you've heard talking to CJ here. what's your time frame, like from start to finish? If I order a hat tomorrow, and get all my information to you, what kind of time frame do you look at to push one back to the customer?
Right now, it's looking at 6 to 8 weeks. That's what my time.
Okay.
Woo. Yeah, it's my orders have nearly tripled just within the past 2 weeks. I was sitting at single digits, and now I'm in the doubles.
Yeah.
It's getting closer to 20, 23, just at one time, and I'm just one guy.
Man, that's awesome.
So I'm,
Okay, yeah,
I'm
and that's
really
what I was going to
grateful
ask.
for
Is
that.
it just you, or do you have a few people that work for you, or what?
No, it's just me. It's me from start to finish.
Wow. That's awesome.
With a craft like yours, it's hard to bring somebody else in.
It
because
is. There's
you're
you got
specific
different
with what you
opinions
want.
and different styles. You want
Yeah.
it to be the same every time.
And it's like that with every craft, every trade. Dan knows how meticulous I am about mouth calls.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm making a mouth call, I'm making it like, there's a special way that I want it and I like it made. And I think
he don't let
that
me put
works
my
the
mouth
best.
on every call.
I found like I'm very. I don't know if OCD is the right term, but I am. I guess OCD when it comes to.
No, I think it is. It's a term that's just recently come about 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you didn't hear of OCD and ADHD and different things like that. So,
but when it comes to putting a hat out the door, I will redo a hat as many times as it needs to be done for the customer to go send it off. I will never take your money and then send you something you don't want. Like that's, I can't stand by that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'm sold.
So one of the hashtags we put in on our live podcast here on Facebook that you're watching now, if you're watching, is custom is custom. Is that what it was?
Custom means custom.
Custom means custom.
Custom means custom.
Yeah. And, that kind of, blossoms from the idea that if you're going to spend the money on a custom hat, no matter if you're wanting it for the arena, for fun or for a concert, whatever it may be, it should be completely custom to you.
Yeah.
Right down to what you want it to say on your sweatband. It's as simple as that. I've been in the industry long enough that I've seen both sides of it, where you get the guy that'll give you the shirt off his back to make sure you get the right hat that you want, and then the other side where you're not getting that.
Well, I think you gain a quality of customer base when you do that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You're just not having anybody buy your products.
Exactly.
So,
And that's where the cost comes in too.
Yes.
I mean, go ahead, Dan.
well, I'm just sitting here looking, my TV scrolling through. I paused Netflix. I was watching the show before we started this. What would be the Longmire hat? What style is Walt Longmire's hat?
Longmire, he's wearing an old school RCA crease. It's almost like a brick, but it tapers more into the front. And then he's got this weird mix of a rancher brim with a belly curl. And the belly curl term just comes from literally creasing the hat over your stomach. And that's how you get that. That's how you get that.
It's definitely one of the most unique styles I've seen in a show, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many of those I've had to put out the door.
Some just like his?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. There was a time where I was doing 5 Longmires a week.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's what got its name. So he was like, I want the Longmire.
Exactly. That was the hat before the John Dutton. That was,
Now, with Yellowstone having the hats and stuff, obviously being what it is, do you get people, I want a Kevin Costner
every day.
I want his style hat or
every
whatever.
Day. Yep, all day long, every day. You get
6 to 8 weeks deep.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. More often than not, the older guys are wanting to be the John Dutton and wear that nice, cattleman, and then you got the other guys wanting to look. The younger guys want to be Rip, so they want that dirtied up, brown hat and all that fun stuff. But, the Western industry is still going through the Yellowstone effect. That's what they call it, because that show just skyrocketed the Yellowstone or the Western industry.
That's crazy.
Sure.
It's the urban cowboy movement all over again.
Yep.
So if I'm gonna get one, I don't know how you said you was fairly young still yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you remember Silverado?
Absolutely.
Kevin Costner's hat and that.
You want that? Okay.
I would take that hat all
Really?
day long.
The one tipped up in the front.
Yes.
Okay, done deal. I know.
I got to see this hat.
I know
I
exactly
don't
what you're
remember
talking
what it
about.
looks like.
I've built Kevin Kline's hat from that movie. I've built Scott Glenn's hat from that movie, but I have not built Costner's hat from that movie yet. So that would be a treat.
Okay, I got to see this.
Look it up. Like, so I grew up on that stuff. You know, my heroes have always been cowboys. And, you know, those are my movies that I remember growing up with.
Yeah.
John Wayne movies.
Yes.
I mean, I sat down with Pawpaw and we watched every single John Wayne movie that's ever been made. He had every single plate set that you could get.
Yeah. I've gotten a lot of, goofy looks from people when I would go to a cowboy action match because my favorite John Wayne hat is the one that, like the Costner in Silverado, is bent up in the front. It's all dirty and all that stuff. His old
I could see the people wanting the John Cleese one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not the Kevin Costner one.
Oh, come on now.
I think it would fit you though, Dan.
Yeah.
No,
I've always loved that. It's a unique hat.
Absolutely.
In my eyes, it's like you don't see that.
No, you don't.
No, you really don't.
And it takes a specific kind of person, especially in a movie, to play the hero and wear a goofy looking hat. Like, you're pulling it off.
Absolutely.
You're pulling it off.
So that's one of the things that I'm thinking of here while looking at this is like, is there a special way that you wear each style hat?
It's really dependent on the person. Like, sticking with, I guess, Costner for a while, he's never worn the same hat style in a movie twice. Like in Silverado, he wears it's a telescope crown with bent up in the front. In Dances with Wolves, he didn't really wear a hat that much, but when he did, it was, the Cavalry Union soldier hat.
Yeah, the cavalry hat. Yep.
Wyatt Earp, it was a Gus, and then Open Range, it was what's called the Oriana crease or Oriana crease.
Oh wow!
It's literally just a slope in the front with what's called a mule kick in the back. And then in this most recent, he's wearing a flat brim with a very, very shallow or bulbous Gus crease. But he manages to wear each hat well. So I think it's just dependent on what style you're going for at the particular time.
Western thing works great with him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the closest.
Him and Open Range was phenomenal.
Yeah, he's the closest thing you've got right now to the old cowboy actors.
Yeah. That's like one of my favorite author is Louis L'Amour. One of my favorites. Obviously.
Absolutely.
And he's got the Sackett brothers.
Yes, absolutely.
And just watch any of those movies, man. It's the hats they have in those.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
And
people don't catch that. Like
no.
They're not looking at the hats. They're not looking at the wardrobes.
And then you see, there's been cases where I've heard, not necessarily on film sets or anything like that, but people have said, well, people aren't going to know that this hat isn't period. I said, you don't know who your audience is. You don't know who you're talking to. Like, they will nitpick it to death if they see something that's not period correct. But if it looks good, it looks good. I don't really know as far as that goes because there's really nothing period correct in a Western you see nowadays.
So do you have people order things that's not like they just make up their own?
Oh yeah.
So what do they do? Like is it like a mix and match? Like you got like Tom Selleck. He's a well-known Western star. He's worn multitudes of hats as well.
Yes.
He had that real wide brim, cattleman cut.
Yeah, there's always been. I've had people get a hold of me and ask for. They're like, I want this brim from Tom Selleck and this crown from Sam Elliott with this band from this guy third down from John Wayne in this movie from 1945.
Oh my goodness!
That's
okay.
And I want to be able to build hats for those people because you'll have people all day long who will show you a picture of, whoever it may be at the given time, Robert Duvall and say, make me that
Yeah.
hat.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to say, okay, I can build you that hat. But when that next guy comes in and shows me that same picture, but it's the guy in the background that is a spec, and he's like, I want you to build me that hat. I want to be able to say, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
You know,
Nice.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I mean, it's just amazing to me, all these different styles.
Mm-hmm.
So you say you do
There's
you
unlimited
do
options.
the stitching yourself.
Yep.
No sewing machine.
Nope. The only machinery that's actually in the shop is my steamer and my gold leaf press.
You know, it's one of the things that we were talking about before the podcast. I don't think people realize how much work goes into something that's custom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of like our game calls when we do custom game calls.
Yeah.
Some people want them the next day or
Right.
in a couple weeks. I've had it take 6 weeks sometimes to get out custom game calls, especially when you're doing more than a couple.
Yeah.
We've done multitudes of 50 to 100 pieces for customers before, and sometimes that's taken a little longer.
Yeah.
But the custom market, I mean, like you're saying, you get a free brim or
yeah. Well,
whatever that sweatband,
hatband.
hatband.
Yeah.
Hatbands.
There's places you'll go, or again, I'm not calling anybody out by any stretch of the imagination, but there's places you'll go where the hat buying experience is based on the accessories, and I get that. But if you're going to buy a hat, you need a hat band.
Yeah.
So when you buy a hat from me, you get a hat band of your choice for free with your hat.
And I'd say most of that comes from people wanting things right now.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
very accessible.
Yeah.
And
I try to give as much as I can back to the customer, and make it stay fruitful for both.
yeah, definitely.
Because, somebody says, well, I want this hat band and this hat band. Okay, well, I'll put the more expensive one on your hat for free, and I'll just charge you the extra price for the second hat band.
Yeah.
So that way you're saving a little bit of change, but it's working for both of us.
Yeah.
And
like, we were talking before the podcast, you ship these things for free.
Yeah.
So that's that. I mean, just think of the box that you would have to ship one of these in.
Yeah.
And make sure it's not getting crushed
Yeah.
on the way there.
Yeah.
You're probably getting insurance on it when you ship it.
Yep, I do insurance based on what the hat's sold for, and I've ordered special boxes in. I do special packing supplies, and the reason I do the free shipping is, again, because people are already spending good chunks of money on custom hats.
Yeah.
And they don't need that extra $70 thrown on top and saying, well, that's too much. So, okay, I get it. So shipping is free. You don't need to worry about that unless it's international. Or it's expedited.
Yeah, we learned that real soon with international there.
Yep, exactly.
We love shipping things to Spain.
I tell everybody up front, because I actually just shipped a hat off to Canada today, and I had to charge an extra fee for shipping because
Customs.
Yeah, it's just going right through customs, and
Yeah, we shipped FedEx to Spain, and man, oh my God, the customs fee is ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't need to see customers get disgruntled or turn away because of that extra fee. So that's why, again, I try to cut out those corners where I can. I don't ever want to cut out corners for my product
or quality.
Yeah.
That's what. Yeah.
But I'll try to cut corners as far as price for the customer. So that way it's a little bit easier on their wallet.
Yep. Obviously, you got to make money, and in the economy that we're in right now, we got to help the customer out a little bit.
Yeah.
So
because the more you help them out, the more they'll return.
Yep.
Themselves and spread the word.
And that's like us. We eat the cost on all of our shipping that we do from our website. Yeah. So if you order from our website, it's always free.
Yeah.
But if you call up and order, and I'm generating an invoice,
you're
going to get a shipping charge.
Exactly. Yeah.
You got a little bit, you got more time into that and stuff.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
But anyways, man, CJ, it was great talking to you. Very
I got
interesting.
one quick question before we're done.
Go.
One quick question. So we talked about all the fur hats. Do you deal with any of the straw style?
Not right now.
Oh yeah,
Not at all.
I remember you talking about wanting to ask that.
I don't deal in straw right now, but that's not saying I won't in the future. The reason I don't right now is because of wait times and finding a decent supplier. There's a bunch of different straw suppliers that are popping up, but before I start branding those and selling those, I want to make sure.
So is that something that you would have to weave yourself?
No.
Okay.
It would just be a supplier that I would get in.
I got you.
I would do a private label deal and just have my name put in the hats and just sell them for but you have to order so many of them.
Yeah, I guarantee it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because I know it's nothing on your website talks about it, and I didn't know if that was something you was looking into, or if that was a bigger process than what you're doing.
Definitely a bigger process. If things keep going well, hopefully by this time next year, I'll be getting some straws in. We'll see how it goes.
Okay,
that sounds good. So
hopefully by this time next year, I have one of those hats.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's kind of funny because when I turkey hunt, I wear a different style hat than just your regular ball cap hat.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what that style's called. I'll send you a picture of it and you can tell me.
Okay.
Since you're the hat guy, but I think it would be cool to have a hat made that style with this kind of fur.
Oh, cool.
Wouldn't it, Dan?
Oh yeah, I'd wear that.
I would wear it all day long.
Yeah,
definitely.
I mean, my sister got me one, and I'm gonna send him a picture of that one too, because I'll be wearing that one when the weather gets colder. But it's not something.
So many. That's the problem. Like, there's so many styles that I would wear.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just there's an exponential amount of styles that I would want to wear.
That's what shocks me is when somebody says, I've been wearing the same hat style for 40 years. I'm like, how? Like, I don't understand. Like, I have different hat styles that I wear for different events. Like, maybe I'm preppy that way, but I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think there's different hats for different things, I mean.
Absolutely. And that's kind of where I was going with the straw, because I don't really wear, I've got my cowboy hats per se. I won't wear those when it's 90 plus degrees, They're too hot. And for me, I like the straw hat for that time of the year.
My first cowboy hat I purchased in Pocahontas, Elkins. And it was at I don't remember the store name, but it was right there where that Pocahontas statue stands. There used to be a leatherwork store there.
Oh, wow.
In Elkins.
Okay.
And that's where I purchased my first leather cowboy hat. And it was a crushable pocket hat, like you would wear. Yeah. And it was full grain cow leather.
Yeah.
And that thing was amazing. But it left a brown spot around your head because of how the way they dyed it.
Yeah.
And tanned it.
Yeah.
But man, it was a really good hat.
I bet.
You talk about keeping water and stuff off, man. I don't even know what happened.
I lied. I got one more thing. I literally.
Well, guess what? I got another question too. So
this is my wheelhouse, Michael. You know this. I love my cowboy hats.
Yeah.
What is the rounded dome flat brim style hat? What is that called?
Are you referring to the big fashion hat that's going around, or that old Stetson looking thing?
The probably I'm gonna try to think of what it's off of.
I believe
310 to Yuma. You had that one guy had that rounded dome with the flat brim hat. I think he was a banker.
Okay. I know what you're talking about. I believe I know what you're talking about. It's just a completely rounded top. There's no crease, correct?
Right, correct.
Yeah.
So I think what you're referring to is basically called the Boss of the Plains, which is the real, it's the real cowboy hat. That's what they were all wearing back then. That was what John V. Stetson started with. And they were all open and flat. And
they would never take them off by the middle of the hat. They would take them off by the side of their hat.
Just about, yeah. That's how,
by the brim of it.
Right. And then over the time, through that, you got that's how you got a lot of your hat styles. And then they started selling them that way. But a lot of the hat styles that we have didn't come out of the Old West. They came out of the 1890s into the early 1900s when the West was dying out.
Yep.
That puts me more in the mindset of an Easterner going out west.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
So what They just keep popping up. So what kind of hats would you say that they wore, like New York style?
They were wearing a lot of bowlers, like back in the day.
Yeah, like late 1800s, early 1900s.
A lot of top hats, a lot of bowler hats. Like,
bowler hats.
You know.
So I think that one that I just recently got from my sister is a bowler hat.
Okay.
I'm thinking that's what it is.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, you'll definitely have to send me some pictures of that.
Yeah, I'll send you some pictures when I get back to the house. But I think that's what it is. Now that you say that, because it's almost like a top hat.
Yeah.
But it's because it's not real wide,
right?
And it's not tall.
Yeah.
It's not tall like a top hat, but it's kind of got that feature of a top hat.
Okay,
but it's something that you would wear in the fall and the winter.
Yeah. That's what everybody was wearing for the longest time back then. You know, the age-old story is that John B. Stetson, he was living, in the East, got diagnosed with tuberculosis, moved out west, and saw these cowboys wearing these small-brimmed hats, and then that's how you get the boss of the plains.
Really?
That's how Stetson.
Speaking of tuberculosis, how many Doc Holliday?
Doc Holliday.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we could go on for days with this.
We could.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the Western movies myself.
Yeah.
But so the other question that I had before I had that one is, so you have a 26 hat on right now.
Just about, yeah.
What does that mean? Is that the 26 bridge?
This?
Yeah.
This is...
I didn't know if that was 26 bridge or like
it's
a loop
26
front.
bar.
26 bar. Okay.
I have no affiliation or whatsoever. I'm just a big John Wayne fan. This is the name of his ranch that he had.
Oh, okay.
This was his cattle operation, and I've really grown accustomed to what their brand is trying to do and trying to preserve his memory and his history and everything. So I try to. Not that they need my help.
Yeah, but I mean, you support what you believe in.
Oh, yeah. I try to throw a shout out, to them whenever I can.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's plenty of people that don't need us shouting them out, but we like to show the support for them because it's something we have an interest in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, my foundation in both, Westerns and in film dates going back to watching John Wayne when I was a kid. I can remember the first movie I watched of his and just growing up and all that stuff around his films, and I loved it so much. And it's grown into very much a respect for who the man was and all that stuff. So I like to wear their stuff and promote them whenever I can. And there's been a little vice versa. I've worn their stuff in a lot of my videos or social media promotion, and they'll put me on their Instagram stories, and it's like Landers Hat Works wears John Wayne brand. So that's kind of a cool little thumbs up.
Oh yeah, that's nice. Well, cool deal, man. Well, Dan, you done with your questions there? Can I start the outro music?
Yeah, you better, because I could continue for hours.
I know.
I'm just gonna have to get with him after the fact, and I guess he's just gonna have to build me a hat. That's all there is to it.
Yep.
Looking forward to it.
That's all there is to it, man. You're just gonna have to get you one. All right, CJ. So before we get off, real quick, tell everybody where they can look at your products and where they can order your products and all that good stuff.
Facebook and Instagram is both Landers Hat Works. You can follow me on there and my personal profiles, landershatworks.com, and on TikTok, c.jamesl on TikTok.
Oh, nice.
That's where you can find a lot of my stuff in terms of, video content.
All righty.
Yeah.
Well, like I said earlier, before we had tons more questions, we appreciate you coming on this evening.
Yeah, of course. Glad to be here.
Spending time with us here in studio, and I wish Dan and Dave could have been here, but
oh, me too.
Obviously, Dave, man, if you were here looking at these hats, you would be salivating. I can guarantee you.
I know I would be. I've been looking at his dang on Instagram. It's like, I want that one and that one and that one and that one.
Yeah, they are some well-crafted hats, that's for sure. It's definitely an art, and you have a talent.
Thank you.
So we sure appreciate you. All right, guys. Well, be sure to check him out there, CJ Landers, Landers Hat Works on Facebook, Instagram, and you got a website too, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep, landershatworks.com.
landershatworks.com. All right, guys. Well, check him out there, and be sure to check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. Dan, as always, thank you for this evening, brother. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure.
Yep. Pleasure talking with you. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. Hey folks, do you have your ID? That's right, Tracker's ID from the fine folks at Longspur Tracking and Outfitting. Tracker's ID is the first whitetail interdigital bottled scent made specifically for training tracking dogs. A few drops goes a long way. Train your pups the way the professionals at Longspur train. Look for them today on Facebook. Just look up Longspur Tracking and Outfitting and shoot them a message or contact them today at 304-439-1659.